after being in corporate after being in corporate America for 25 years and then finding myself at a crossroads, it was, I was just praying and asking for guidance on, where do we go from here? So Trinity Investment Solutions was born. And really the purpose of Trinity Investment Solutions after I decided to come into real estate was, my tagline, which says uniting hearts and homes one door at a time. I wanted to be able to identify real estate opportunities and turn them into business solutions, really with the focus to enable others to accomplish their goals and or to be delivered from their dilemmas. And what I mean by that is we have a lot of distressed property owners among us. And so being able to engage with individuals who were distressed property owners and being able to come up with solutions that would not only deliver them or to help them accomplish what they needed to accomplish, but turned into a business opportunity for me. And the goal is to not ever to take advantage of somebody's situation, especially if they're distressed, but to enable them without sacrificing my goals and objectives. The other thing was to be able to do that by acquiring a toolbox, a set of skills and knowledge that would really give me the platform in order to help others and to help myself and ultimately leave a legacy for my family. And then Trinity Investment Solutions finally, in all of that, with all of that skill, knowledge, and things that I've acquired over time, I have been able to provide homes via rental properties, impact communities by improving distressed properties, by flipping them, using creative financing alternatives. Also, my goal ultimately is to be able to create mortgage notes and then agency, which is representing others as they look to buy or sell their own properties. So Trinity Investment Solutions really encompasses all of that. If it sounds like a lot, it is. On a daily basis, some days I never know what I'm going to encounter, but I am having a blast. And I really enjoy being out here and doing this full time. So just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about Trinity for those of you who either hadn't heard of Trinity Investment Solutions or were curious as to exactly what it is that we do. So again, we talked already about how to transition to full-time real estate, and then today, how to leverage what you have to get what you want. And we actually have 2 more series. I think they're every 2 weeks. So the next one, Deborah, is, I'm not looking at my calendar. What is that? August
18th.
18th. Okay.
And then September 2nd, I believe, is the last one.
Okay. So same time.
Yes.
So when you think about how do you leverage what you have, you've got to ask yourself, what do you have? And the place for me where I started was really going back to what some of my guiding principles were and what I have developed to be guiding principles for myself, because I just believe that however the energy that you put into the atmosphere is what you're going to get back. So I just threw some of these things up here that, I live and breathe by these mindset mantras, so to speak. And as a woman, as well as the Bible says, as a man thinketh, I threw in the woman part, just, as a man thinketh, so is he. Fear or faith, you choose. What you choose to focus on expands. Determination is key. The principle of 2 fish and 5 loaves. We know that story. We all know that story, and how Jesus was able to take just a little bit and feed 5,000, and then self motivation. So I think that all of those things, just having a spirit and an attitude with that, the energy of these principles, all things are possible to him who believe and trust in him. I truly believe my foundation, and I don't want to get off on a spiritual tangent, but if you believe, if it's what you believe and what you trust in that is really going to propel you. For me, it's God. And I stand on those principles, and I just feel like those roots just continue to dig deeper, because you have to when you are out here and you have a mindset that says, I am going to do this, I am going to make it. Entrepreneurship is something that I am going to pursue. You've got to believe and trust in a higher source that's going to just be the foundation of your choices and of your decisions. So mindset matters. Next, you have to ask yourself, what do I have today that I can leverage? What do I have that is going to help me make a jump and be successful in real estate or in any endeavor? In real estate specifically, because that's where I've landed, it's your relationships. It's the skills that you have. It's credit. Now, some of us have good credit, some of us don't have good credit, but whatever credit you have, you have it. It's yours. It belongs to you. Some of us have, most of us, all of us, as long as we're living, we've got time. And so we can leverage that time. Some of us have land already. Some people have property already. Many of us have formal education. All of us have life education. And then money. Some of us have a little, some of us have a lot. But whatever you have, you can use it to leverage and be successful in this business. So I don't want people to go, get started. If you're looking to get into real estate, if you're looking to grow a real estate business that you already have, really take inventory and take stock in, what do I have? Before you go off trying to figure out what you need, know that what you have is valuable, and it is something that you will be able to use moving forward. One of the things I need to say is I want to make this conversational. So feel free if you have a question or you want to interject. I do not mind at all. Deborah can let me know if there's a hand raised or anything, and I will stop and acknowledge your question or comment. So do not hesitate. Let's talk a little bit about money. A lot of people are intimidated about getting into real estate because they feel like they don't have enough money. And that could not be further from the truth. There are plenty of opportunities for people who do not have a lot of money to get into real estate. And we'll talk a little bit about some of those strategies later. But when you think of money in a couple of different veins. So money in the form of cash, money in the form of credit, whether it is your credit score, whether it is credit that you have. It could be just relationship, credit that you have developed with others. A lot of, I use the term emotional deposits and emotional withdrawals. Sometimes we have relationships where we can go into those relationships and make a withdrawal. People might be willing to to partner with you based on the relationships that you have. So don't underestimate the value of the credit you have if you have good credit, and or the credit of people in your network. The other asset, money asset that you may have available to you are your long-term investment assets. So many of us have 401ks, we have IRAs, HSAs. HSA is a health savings account, for those of you who may or may not be familiar with that. And then we have profit sharing accounts or retirement accounts that we've accumulated over years. There is a way that you can leverage those dollars in order to invest in real estate. Now, that's a whole class, like a week session in and of itself. But the goal here is to just plant the seeds to let you know that these things are possible. Now, what you see here is I have in front of the 401k, I've got self-directed 401k, self-directed IRAs, because those are very specific types of 401k and IRA plans that you can use to leverage in order to invest in real estate. People, I'm sure, light bulbs are going all off right now. You mean I can use my 401k plan in order to invest in real estate? Yes, you can. However, you definitely have to have the knowledge and the education in order to do that the right way. So don't go jumping off trying to do anything crazy, calling your financial planner saying, hey, I want to invest using my 401k plan, because your financial planner is not going to be happy with you. Just FYI, I'll say that up front. Most financial planners are not well versed on self-directed investment strategies. So just a nugget, give you a heads up. Don't call them. Okay.
Well, Felicia, is Deborah. So who should you call in that situation, if not your financial advisor?
So that's where your real estate network comes in. There are companies out there. Equity Trust is one of them. Quest is another one that manage. They are referred to as trustees. They manage these type of investment assets. So those are the type of companies that you will want to reach out to in order to learn and understand how to invest using these type of investment assets. Any other questions?
No, I don't see any.
Okay, good. All right. So what is the key to being in real estate as a good professional, right? So I always say there's a difference, and you probably heard me say this if you were part of the last session, that there's a difference between a real estate investor and a property owner, right? Real estate investors really are making decisions based on the numbers. Sometimes, a lot of times, property owners are just that. They have a property, they're renting it out, and they're collecting a check every month. They may or may not be making a profit. Why? Because they're not managing that property as a business. A lot of investors who are making very strategic decisions are managing their investments as a business. This is what they do. Not all investors are full-time. Most of them are not. But they are managing whatever they're doing or however they're investing as a business. And so you will continue to learn that what that difference looks like, right? So for example, I've had people say, hey, I'm going to buy a property. The property is, $60,000, I can turn around and sell it for $130,000. It's like, oh, great, that's awesome. But if it costs you $50,000 in repairs, then that may or may not be a great investment. Um, so until you do the numbers, until you learn and make sure that you are approaching that flip, so to speak, in with using the right tools, the right process, the right assumptions, that may or may not make you a lot of money. So it is important that as you continue to learn, that you make these assessments and these decisions, um, like I said, with all the right assumptions. So I believe that along with faith and effort, you have to really take the time to educate yourself. Whatever real estate strategy you choose, education is critical. Developing a professional network, other people who are not only professionals, but people who are in the real estate business. So here you see subject matter experts, have an accountant, have an attorney, a tax expert, mortgage lenders, or municipal leaders. And what I mean by municipal leaders is having people in the community who are your elected officials, having those relationships, because they can help you understand what municipalities will allow, what they won't allow, or what those laws are with regard to being a property owner in that municipality. So one of the things recently the city of Cincinnati has required is for, if you're a property owner in the city of Cincinnati, you are now required to register that property in the database that they've recently created. I think it rolled out last year. Hamilton County has a database as well, and you are required to register rental property in Hamilton County. If you're not registered, you need to make sure you do that. Municipal leaders, our elected officials, are always passing ordinances and laws and that impact property owners or real estate investors. Many of us don't even know these things are happening because we're not engaged. So it's important to have those leaders as a part of your network. You see in the bottom right of the screen, it says, I have a big X across YouTube University. Nothing against YouTube. You can learn a ton of things on YouTube, but when it comes to your business or your desire to be a real estate investor at some level, YouTube is a great place to get nuggets and to maybe start, but that is not where I would live. I would find very credible sources, people in the real estate business who you can reach out and touch in order to ask questions, in order to get direction and to learn from and to glean from, so that we all make mistakes. You will make mistakes, but when you have those type of relationships, it will minimize the cost of your mistakes. I guarantee you. I see a question. Victoria.
Hi, Felicia. Yes, my name's Toria. I had a couple questions. So if you're new in this business, like, how do you build these relationships? Where do you go? How do you start this process? If this is not your, day-to-day profession, where do you recommend we start?
Well, definitely reach out to Deborah for the recording from last week, because that is a whole, hour talking about how to get started. But really, there are your local real estate associations. You've got real estate meetups, but they are a a repository of people and education to help guide you in the strategy that you may choose to pursue.
Okay, I'll reach out to her to try to get that. And then you were talking about like flipping, which you might have mentioned it last week or in your last series as well. I missed it, sorry.
It's
Wait, if you're trying to flip a home and you barely have enough to buy the home and you're getting the home and you want to be a real estate investor, how can you get more money to flip it, to put more money into it if you just have just enough just to get it?
So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but really, again, it's you're having a network. Maybe it's, having credit. If you are buying a home to flip, you want to make sure before you even purchase the home that you know or have some idea where you're going to get the resources in order to do that flip. I would not, if you don't have it all up front, then I would make sure that I engaged my resources in order to make sure that by the time I start that flip, I know I've got the money to make it happen. And sometimes starting as a flipper, if you don't have the funds right up front, that might not be the best place to start. You could be a wholesaler, and we'll talk about more of the strategies later, but you can be a wholesaler, which doesn't require a lot of cash. To be a good wholesaler, that's a way to acquire more cash in order to flip properties. Or partnerships. That is another option. You might not have the money, but you know somebody who does, or you know somebody that has the credit that maybe they might partner with you, get a credit card, so that you can buy the materials and help you pay your contractors. And then at the end of the deal, you all split. You have some type of agreement of the percentage of the profit split. So that's another option.
Thank you.
Anybody else? The one thing I will say about subject matter experts, your accountant, your attorney, your tax expert, you want to make sure that you have someone who is an expert in real estate. All accountants, all attorneys are not created equal. I'll say that again. All accountants, all attorneys are not created equal. And what I mean by that is just because somebody is an attorney doesn't make them a real estate expert or doesn't make them a real estate attorney. So a lot of times I think we fall victim to, I've got an attorney to look into that. Well, if they're not a real estate attorney, it's just like the same as going to a doctor who they might be a doctor, but if they specialize in being a heart doctor, you don't want them focused on your feet, right? It's the same thing with accountants and attorneys, because when you start, particularly as I think about the work that I do and a lot of the people that I work with, other fellow investors, you start getting into this creative stuff and doing things that's non-traditional, then you need someone who is an expert in that space to help navigate through that, to keep you out of, paying a whole lot of taxes, right? So, for example, if you flip a house and you make, $100,000 on that house, and that's on top of your, $100,000 income, believe me, Uncle Sam is going to have a mighty good time with you, because you're going to pay a lot of money in taxes. But if you are working with an accountant or, a tax expert that is a specialist in this space, then that person is going to say, hey, I'm going to suggest maybe you take this money into a 1031 exchange to help you avoid the tax burden that will come along with making such a large sum of money. You don't want to make $100,000 on a flip and then turn around and have to pay 30-40% of that to Uncle Sam. You want to understand and learn how do I protect the money that I've made. We get really upset about people who don't pay taxes, but the reality is we all want to minimize our tax burden, because at the end of the year, and we look at our tax statements or how much we had to pay Uncle Sam last year, it is discouraging. When you know what you could have done with, if you're in $100,000 tax bracket or more, and they're taking $30,000 a year out of your check, you're like, okay, I could have done 30 something with that $30,000, right? So everybody is in the business of minimizing their tax burden. If you have a tax accountant that specializes in real estate, then they can help you do that. Same with an attorney. So it's important for you to have those subject matter experts in your network. I have a question. Can you speak of possible partnering with the seller in creative endeavors if you're working on a shoots and no string budget? Can a seller offer seller financing in a wholesale transaction? That is a very interesting question. Yes, the answer is yes, you can. So seller financing. So you're actually, I don't know, did I pay you to transition me into that? Let's see. Go to the next slide here. I'm not getting a lot of cooperation. Okay. Seller financing is an acquisition strategy, and you can negotiate. Wholesaling is all about negotiating a deal with the seller, creating a contract with that seller, a purchase contract, and then you market that contract to sell. So if you negotiate a seller finance deal with the seller, and then you turn around and market that contract and sell it to a buyer, that's a very valuable contract. Probably it could be as valuable as the property itself. So if you've got a seller finance deal and you're marketing that to someone, to an investor, they're probably going to pay you a pretty penny, because they appreciate the work that you've done in order to negotiate that deal. Does that answer the question? Because how you make money in wholesaling is you get money for putting the deal together. You're matching the investor with the seller, and that investor is paying you for finding that deal. Any other questions? Okay, so what do I need in real estate? So money, we've talked about money. It depends on the strategy that you choose on how much money you need up front. If you are looking to wholesale, you need money to manage your marketing budget, because wholesaling is all about marketing to sellers, to identify distressed sellers and distressed property who own distressed properties, and marrying them and using that marketing knowledge and resources in order to identify buyers. If you are looking to flip properties and you don't have a lot of money, you probably need a partner that does have money. So money, like I said, it depends on the strategy that you choose to determine how much money you'll need to get started. You need to focus on learning a strategy, right? So I will show you a list here in a few minutes. There are a dozen different strategies in real estate. That is the thing I love, love, love about real estate. When you think about what you do well, um, or what you don't do well, you can think of there is a real estate strategy to match your skill and your desires. Um, there's so much out there. If you like doing research, then wholesaling is something that you might love to do, because wholesaling requires a lot of marketing, a lot of research. If you like working with your hands, then maybe rehabbing and you enjoy actually doing some of that work. I rehab, but I don't enjoy picking up hammers and nails. I don't. So I hire people to do that. What do I enjoy? I enjoy working with contractors and negotiating contracts. I enjoy doing that. I did it for 16 years at Procter and Gamble. So coming out and having that skill set and being able to apply it in this space has been awesome for me. Knowledge. You need the knowledge in order to do this stuff. A lot of times, I hear all the time people are saying, I want to flip houses. And then they're like, can you help me find a house? Well, the reality is, when I don't recommend that people just go out and buy a house and then try to flip it. Like, I do not recommend that. Why? Because it's expensive. It's expensive to learn. It's expensive to learn if you pay for the education, but I guarantee you that it's less expensive to learn that way than to be out here trying to flip a house. And then you start making mistakes and you're like, oh my gosh, that just cost me, $10,000. I say the homeboy network is expensive. I say that because, it happens. I tell you, I got a call just yesterday. Someone called me and said, hey, I've got a relative who, bought a house and he needs help. Well, he bought a house from someone who what he thought was his friend. He said that was my realtor, and my realtor took my money in order to get a title search. And, he's going on and on. And I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, a realtor won't take money from you, right? A realtor is going to have a check. If they take a check from you, it's going to be written out to the broker. It's not going to be written out to the realtor. And then the title company is going to give you a statement that says exactly what money you spent, where it went, yada, yada, yada. So he had all these trusted people that he trusted, all these people that he quote unquote trusted, but at the same time, they took him for his money. So he paid them to do services that they never rendered in effect. And now he has a house that was acquired with a quick claim deed. And the house really was, come to find out, was obtained fraudulently. So now you've got a house with your name on it. You own the debt, but you don't even have the right to sell it. They're foreclosing on you. He's invested all this money into the house and he can't do anything with it. It is a terrible story, but it was because he was tapped into the homeboy network, and now he's out of thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So get the knowledge, invest in the knowledge, and learn how to do these things properly, and it will save you lots of money. And then another thing that you need in real estate, again, I can't emphasize this enough, is a network. I was sitting in a class when I first got into real estate, probably like my first year, and the lady was talking and she said, money is everywhere. And I started looking around. I started looking around my chair. I'm looking around the room and I'm like, I don't see money. And so that really stuck with me, because I'm looking at this and I'm listening to her, and she's saying money is everywhere and I can't see it at that moment. We did another exercise in that same session, and each person had to get on the floor, and people were throwing dollar bills right at them, and you had to try to catch as many dollar bills as you could. Well, what I took away from that session in that network was that it's all about how you see things. And when you see things differently, then the things, when the things you look, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so I changed the way I was looking at money. I changed the way I was looking at real estate. And what I learned is you will begin to see money when you start to see opportunities. And indeed, she was right. Opportunities are everywhere. It's a matter of, do you have the faith? Will you exert the effort in order to take advantage of those opportunities when they present themselves? When you are a part of a strong network in the space that you're in, whether it's real estate or something else, you inundate yourself in that, then you will continually see more and more and more opportunities everywhere. So that network really, really is important. I see some questions in the chat. How do you secure a wholesale deal? Well, first of all, securing a wholesale deal, it comes from a myriad of places, but typically wholesalers are marketing. So they're sending out marketing pieces, or you see these signs that say, "We buy houses for cash." That is a wholesaler. Someone looking for you to pick up the phone and call them and say, "Hey, I've got a house that I want to get rid of. Can you help me?" So we buy houses. Those are all wholesalers looking for deals. So that's one way. Also, you get letters. You've seen letters come in the mail that say, "We want to buy your house. We'll buy your house and give you an offer on your house in 24 or 48 hours." Those are wholesalers marketing for deals. Another way to get deals is driving for dollars. And what that is basically literally getting in your car, driving up and down the street, looking for depressed houses. Is another way. So there's a myriad of ways to come into deals. Right now, a lot of times people just are calling me to say, "Hey, Felicia, I know you do real estate." They don't know what I do in real estate. They just know I do real estate. So they call me and they tell me their stories. And so when they tell me their stories, if there's an opportunity to help them, then that could turn into a wholesale deal. The question is, how do you talk to the seller so that they don't feel like you're a greedy investor? You just be yourself, right? Like, I am not out here trying to take anybody for granted. My sole purpose, and then a lot of times this creates ministry opportunities for me to help others when they call or they have a situation. So some investors are just about the house. They don't really care about the person. And you have to be able to discern if someone is trying to be out here taking advantage of the situation. But not all investors are like that. It is, we live in a capital society and people have to eat. I tell people all the time, I work hard because I got to eat. There's nobody here to feed me. So I got to feed myself. And real estate is the way that I've chosen to make a living. But you do not have to be a greedy investor. Staying true to yourself, having good intentions, and people can see through that. There was another question you had, LaWanda. I want to make sure I get all of them. Okay, I think I got it. So the next one, Daniel, says, can I have the deed or title under an LLC to manage the property and to manage the risk and have the mortgage under a personal name? Yes. Yes, you can deed a property how you want to deed a property. Depending on how you acquire the mortgage, is whether or not the mortgage itself will be under the name of your LLC or in your personal name. And basically, if you're doing a traditional bank, depending on your credit, depending on how long your LLC has been in business, if it's a well-established LLC, then a lender may lend money to the entity and not to you personally. But a lot of times a lender is going to want to make sure that even though they're lending to the LLC has to have enough assets to serve as collateral for that loan. Otherwise, the lender is going to want to make sure that they hold you personally liable to make sure in the event you default on that loan, they will be able to recover their assets. I hope that answers the question. Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna move on if I don't see any more. Tori, I see you have your hand up. Did I answer your question already, or do you have another question?
Sorry, that's an accident.
Okay, just want to make sure. Let's see. Okay, so you've heard me mention real estate strategies a couple of times. These are several real estate strategies that one may engage. So rehabbing, I have retail, because typically what happens is you rehab a property and then you put a sign in front of the house in order to put it on the open market. So you'll hear people call it retailing, you'll hear people call it flipping. There are a couple of different industry terms, but it all means the same thing. Another strategy is private lending. Let's say you have a chunk of money that you want to invest. You don't have to, everybody doesn't have to flip. Everybody doesn't want to be bothered with tenants and toilets. So private lending is also an option. It could be $5,000. It could be $100,000 that you have. You could lend that money to someone who's in real estate and who's flipping houses or who is a housing provider, and you can make a return on your investment. And you don't have to do anything but fill out some papers and make sure that you are getting a return on your investment. There is a way to do private lending. I do not recommend anybody write a check for $50,000 and say, oh, they're going to give me my money back tomorrow. No, no, and no. Don't do that. If you've done it already, go back and figure out how to make that right. But private lending is a great strategy, and many people do it, and you don't have to know the person you're lending money to. That's a myth. In order to have a successful business lending money to real estate investors. Apartment buildings is another strategy. Investing in syndicates is another strategy. Investing in storage units, mobile homes, mortgage notes. You've heard me talk a bit about wholesaling, buying and holding properties. which basically is being a housing provider, whether you choose to do short-term rentals, whether you choose to buy and hold single-family properties or multifamily properties, 4 families, 2 families, 3 families, whatever. All of those are specific real estate strategies. You heard me earlier mention that focusing on a strategy is important. Now, I'm really not one to talk to somebody about focusing on a strategy because I did not do that. So I'm telling you, focus is important because not focusing can cause other issues. Um, I mean, I'm personally glad that I have a toolbox. I dibble and dabble in most of these strategies. I've not arrived to the point where I'm doing private lending. I don't do storage units or mobile homes. And I aspire to be, to do more investing in with mortgage notes. So those are a couple of strategies I don't engage in, but everything else pretty much I do. But focusing on a strategy, learning that strategy, mastering that strategy is very advantageous. I don't know that you have to be, spend years in one strategy before you get good at it, but at least spend a considerable amount of time learning about a strategy, how to do it, how to be effective, so that you build a good solid toolbox. And that's really the approach that I took. Was I learned how to wholesale. So I've done wholesale deals. I've got a portfolio of buy and hold. So I've done different things, which has enabled me to do a lot more. And I like the toolbox because you develop very quickly multiple streams of income. But it's also, it's not easy doing it that way either. So it's just, you have to choose what it is you want to, how you want to structure your business. Let's see here. Have you ever purchased a property sight unseen? Not completely. When I say not completely, there was a deal that was presented to me, and the deal was so awesome. I really didn't care what the property looked like. I knew I needed it. Only thing I needed to know was that the property wasn't leaning over, right? Like it was going to stand for a while. It was such an awesome deal. But I did see the property. I actually saw the property before I signed on the dotted line. So technically, no, I haven't purchased a property sight unseen, but that deal was pretty darn close. What is a syndicate? An apartment syndicate is basically when there is one or a group of individuals who put a deal together that involves an apartment building. Usually it's a big building, like maybe it could be 20 units or more. Doesn't have to be, but a lot of times it's a big investment, and individuals will contribute money in order to secure the deal. So some syndicates have a minimum to enter, and it could be a minimum of $25,000 in order to be a part of the syndicate. It could be a minimum of $10,000. It just depends on the cost of the property and, the level at which the operators of the syndicate, also called managers of the syndicate, what they want to manage. Some people don't want to manage a lot of small investors, right? They want a few large investors. And then once you've got the money to do the syndicate, they do all of the work that's required to get the property, to acquire the property, including the inspections, the working with the title company, all of that, repairs. They pretty much manage the whole process. And then members of the syndicate, they get a residual, they get a check every quarter, every month, depending on the terms of the agreement. That's what a syndicate is. So with regard to real estate strategies, here are a few. I'm sure there are others, but this kind of touches on the big rocks. Commercial is another one I don't have up here. You can invest in commercial properties like strip malls or office buildings. There are people who do those type of investments as well. A lot of your developers, you can, invest in a development project as well. Next slide. Some of the tactics to get property you want by using what you have without a traditional bank. I have been fortunate in that I've been able to acquire properties over the course of these 5.5 years using any one of these respective strategies, not strategies, tactics. Subject to deals, property swaps, land contracts, doing a lease to own, cash, credit, or using private lenders. I am not a huge advocate of working with banks because of all of the hoops you have to go through. And me particularly being or anyone who is a business owner and you don't have a W-2, working with a bank is like, in my mind, is a nightmare because they ask you more questions than I care to answer. And so I've just been able to leverage the knowledge of how to do these different things in order to do the acquisitions. Now, you can lease a property and then turn around and rent it out to somebody else. Again, learning how to do those things is key so that you can do it effectively. People lease properties to have group homes. People lease properties for a myriad of reasons. And then some situations, they do it to ultimately own the property, but not always. Again, you have to know what your business model is and understand how what's the best way for you in order to be profitable. Awesome. Thank you, Monique, for coming. Can you wholesale a land contract? Yes. Yes, you can. Thank you all for the questions. I really appreciate that. Hopefully it's helping others. So again, how to leverage what you have to get what you want in real estate. Take inventory of what you have. The one thing I did not mention or I did not elaborate on is skills. Every one of you who is present today has a specific skill set. Whatever it is, whether it's technology, whether it's maybe you're an accountant, maybe you do something well, make rugs, I don't know, whatever it is, you have something that you can leverage in order to get what it is that you want, because somebody out there wants that and may be willing to pay for that. So for example, I know there's a lady who is a business coach, a real estate business coach. She's not good at technology. So she offers her coaching in exchange for people doing PowerPoint presentations for her or doing other things. And so she teaches them how to do real estate in exchange for them doing things that she doesn't want to do. So you have something that you can offer. Take inventory, understand what that is, and then find out who needs it. find out when you are working when you are a part of a real estate network, somebody needs what you have and you need what somebody else has. So often I talked about the homeboy network earlier. We're always trying to get something for $1. Um, be willing to pay to get what you need, whether you're paying for it with money or whether you're paying for it with your time or with a skill that you have to offer. Don't hesitate to say, hey, I am looking to do XYZ. What do you need? How can I help you? And I guarantee you that when you have that approach, you will really come out on top and getting the things that you need, whether it's time, money, or other resources, in order to build your real estate business or whatever business you're looking to build. So use your knowledge once you learn how to get in the real estate space and be successful. Use your network and then use your creativity. All of those things combined will get you what it is that you want. So with that, I am going to ask if there are any more questions. Feel free to unmute and just ask.
Hi, Felicia.
Hi, how are you?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hi. So, I have a question for you. I just want to, I'm interested in your take on the market. You hear everyone talking about how the market is booming and the real estate is on fire. And I just don't really see it that way. I really kind of wonder when the burst is coming, like as far as the traditional real estate scene, an agent goes, finds a house and somebody buys it, or somebody lists their house and then sells it. What is your view on it? Do you see it as booming or kind of volatile?
Well, I mean, I guess this depends on who you're talking to, right? So we are in a seller's market, which means the inventory of houses on the market and people willing to sell their homes is very low. That is driving the cost of real estate up exponentially. Like I've only been in the game for 5.5 years. So even though I was paying attention to things before, I wasn't as intricately involved as I am now. But when I talk to people who have been in real estate for 20 and 30 years, they have never seen anything like what we're seeing now. And so, we're like at 2 months or less of inventory in the market, and people are paying $20,000, $30,000 over market value. And when we say market value, it's within the last 6 to 12 months. How much was someone willing to pay for, let's say, a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath home, right? Let's call it, in some areas, maybe that number was 150,000. That same house is selling for $170,000, $180,000. So
That's just what it's listed for. We ain't even talking about what's going to happen after the bidding war. So, right.
exactly. And so until we get inventory back. How do we get inventory back? The banks have inventory, or they will acquire inventory through foreclosures and that type of stuff, right? When that inventory starts to flood the market again, we will have more houses, more inventory to sell, to go after. And then that's when you'll start to see things start to normalize again.
But do you feel that it's going to be, because with the inflation of the prices, do you feel that it's going to be as a result of foreclosure, that will get the inventory back? Or like, Because if people are just going to, in a couple years, turn around and say, okay, I'm going to sell now, they're going to try and sell those homes $100,000 over what they're worth. So, what could possibly cause, a foreclosure bust? What could cause that? And that's just me thinking out loud. Of course, this will all, the government could up and, I don't know, change the rules, kick everybody out. Half the people on the planet that own houses, kick them out. I don't know. They could do anything at this point. But, what do you feel that the inventory could possibly be foreclosures?
Well, it's not going to just be foreclosures. It'll be, people being comfortable. When there's more inventory, people will be comfortable looking for houses again. Right now, people who own houses
Right.
Are staying in their houses. They're like, okay, I could get a lot of money for the house, but where am I going to go?
Right.
Right.
So I've
So
been telling people, move in with your mama. I don't care. Because you'll never profit what you can profit right now. Like right now, never in your lifetime. That's what I've been telling my clients. Like my clients, strangers, people in the grocery store, I've been telling everybody. I've literally been walking up to people like, you got something you want to sell? Sell it.
And call me.
Come live with me. I don't care because you're gonna be good. But okay. So I was just interested in your take on that.
Well, there's several things, there's foreclosures. When the market starts, more inventory, people will start to be comfortable selling their homes. People, builders and developers are building new homes. The interesting thing about builders, though, is that most of the inventory that's coming on the market, new construction, it's like $500,000 and up. We don't see a lot of new construction that is under $500,000.
Right.
And so where
we got it over here, and they started in the 270s, and they're all sold. I think the portion that we've got right here across the street from us is, I think there's 10 lots there. I mean, they're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, they're some of them are nothing but foundations in the ground. They are gone.
Yeah. So developers who are willing to build at that price point, the challenging thing about that is that the cost of building has gone up so much. The cost of building materials has skyrocketed. So it's hard to justify building at that price point because there's not a lot of profit there.
Right.
And we'll talk in a couple of weeks about affordable housing and that's a whole issue in and of itself. But providing affordable housing is difficult because the cost to build it there's no profit there. And people aren't just doing it just for the sake of doing it. I'm just going to be honest, right? Unless the government steps in order to help provide those houses.
See, that's
that type of housing.
I'm really wondering if they're going to have to step in, because they were even wondering, why is everything expensive? It's not like there's a shortage. There's not a shortage of lumber. There's not a shortage of drywall. It may be a little harder to get it to people, but why is that driving up costs? So they were thinking that the inquiry into why it's so expensive would kind of make people come back down, like, okay, we're busted. We're busted. Okay, bring prices back down. But okay, so I was just, I appreciate your time. I don't want to take too much time on it, because I'm sure other people have questions, but I'm so grateful for your time. And I can't believe I just met you last weekend, and now
I know.
That was so crazy.
I love it.
It was so crazy. So thank you for your time and your knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see here. Deborah, I'm not missing anything, am I?
I don't see any questions in the chat. No, I don't think so.
Daniel is saying, but I'd pay $1,000 more to buy now, but in a year or two from now, the value of that house may be back to normal. So I'd lose money by buying it now. So Daniel, I think that you have to consider a couple of things. What is the interest rate that you're obtaining? to acquire the property. And then when you look at over the course of those 30 years, if you, let's assume you're buying the property on a 30-year amortized mortgage, is if the cost of the house is quote unquote back to normal, but the interest rates have gone up, you may be spending the same amount of money. So you have to ask yourself, you know, what benefit, what are you looking to accomplish overall, and then make that decision. I've got another question here that says, can you speak on pros and cons of using hard money lenders? Would you recommend using one as a first-time real estate investor? I think that hard money lenders is an awesome option. Your deal should pay for your lending source. So if you've got a deal where you've got a large margin and you can afford to pay a hard money lender, then do it. Leverage that resource. We get caught up because that's how we have been taught, programmed to believe that, you know, the interest rate is everything. When you're an investor, the interest rate is a means to an end. If I'm paying 10% on a project that I'm rehabbing, first of all, I don't plan to hold that rehab in my inventory for longer than a couple of months. So the cost of that 10% interest rate is going to pay for itself. I might pay a couple, maybe $2,000, $3,000 over the course of those months. I'm willing to do that because the deal is going to pay for it. If you're looking to buy and hold a property, and you have to pay a higher interest rate, that's still not bad. It might, because if the property pays for that, you are sacrificing some of your profit in order to get the deal. But there are strategies that you can use in order to minimize how much you pay over a period of time. So I always encourage people to not get stuck on, oh my God, the interest rate is so high. I mean, if you've got good credit and you can walk into a bank and get a 3% interest, 3% interest rate on a loan, then do that. But if you can't, and you need to leverage hard money, or you need to leverage a higher interest rate from a private lender, don't get bent out of shape about it. Just understand how your deal is going to pay for it. I hope that answers the question about hard money. Thank you, Emil. Any other questions? Okay, if not, then I would just like to say thank you again to you, Deborah, to the African American Chamber for hosting this session. And, you know, I just really enjoy being able to give back in just a small way by sharing what I've learned over these 5.5 years. I'm having a wonderful time out here. It's not all gravy. It's a lot of hard work, but it's paying off, and I'm just, you know, willing to help where I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicia. And I just want to let everyone know, while you were conducting this webinar, I signed up to attend the Real Estate Investors Association meeting, which is this Thursday. And I know Felicia, as the former president, would want everyone who is not a member to at least go to the first meeting. And like she said, this is an opportunity to learn and to gain knowledge. And I'm always a big proponent of learning. So I am going to be attending this Thursday's meeting. And thank you everyone for participating in this event today. We look forward to seeing you on August 18th, when we will continue with the real estate investment series with Felicia Bell. So thank you, Felicia, for sharing your knowledge. Everyone have a great day. Enjoy the weather, stay safe, and stay healthy.
Awesome. Thank
All right,
you.
bye-bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.